For 21-year-old Alex, the world began and ended at the threshold of his garage. Inside was his sanctuary, his passion, his masterpiece, a vintage muscle car he was painstakingly restoring. The scent of engine grease, the metallic clang of a wrench, the roar of a tuned engine, this was the music of his life. Everything outside that world, especially the mundane responsibilities of family, felt like a distraction, a low hum he had become an expert at tuning out. This weekend, he had been entrusted with the most important responsibility of his life. His parents were away for their anniversary, leaving him in charge of his 16-year-old sister, Lily. And Lily had a secret vulnerability that demanded constant vigilance, a severe, life-threatening allergy to wasp stings. The exterminator is coming on Monday about that nest in the garage eaves, his father had said, his expression deadly serious as he handed Alex the EpiPen. Until then, if she is in the backyard, this does not leave your side, not for a second. Is that clear, Alex? This is not a request. Yeah, Dad, I got it. Crystal clear, Alex had replied, his mind already drifting back to the carburetor he was rebuilding. Saturday was a beautiful, sunny afternoon. Lily went into the backyard to read. In her favorite lawn chair, Alex, seeing her settled, made a fateful, selfish decision. The car was calling to him. She'll be fine for a few hours, he muttered to himself. He left the EpiPen, his sister's lifeline, on the kitchen counter. He walked into the garage, pulled the heavy door down, put on his industrial-grade, noise-canceling headphones, and let the world, and his responsibilities, disappear into the roar of his music and the focus of his work. He was so lost in the intricate dance of pistons and spark plugs that he didn't notice the single, curious wasp that had drifted down from the nest. He didn't see it land on the sweet, sugary lemonade sitting next to his sister's chair. And he certainly didn't hear his sister's sharp, sudden cry of pain as the wasp, disturbed by her movement, plunged its stinger into her arm. Panic immediately seized Lily. She knew the clock was ticking. Her throat already felt tight, her skin itchy. Alex, she screamed, her voice thin with fear. She scrambled to her feet and ran for the garage, her breaths becoming ragged. Alex. But her brother couldn't hear her. He was in his own world, tightening a bolt, nodding his head to the beat of a song. Lily reached the garage door, her vision starting to tunnel, her lungs burning. She pounded on the door with her fists, her screams now just a desperate, wheezing gasp. And then, her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the concrete driveway, her world fading to black. It was only 10 minutes later, when Alex stood up to stretch, that he happened to glance at the small window in the garage door. He saw a shape on the ground. Annoyed at the interruption, he threw off his headphones and yanked the door open. The sight that greeted him shattered his world. His sister lay unconscious, her face pale, her lips tinged with blue. For a terrifying second, his mind couldn't process it. Then he saw the angry red welt on her arm. The wasp sting. A wave of pure ice-cold horror washed over him. The EpiPen. It was inside, on the kitchen counter. Useless. He fumbled for his phone, his grease-stained hands shaking so violently he could barely dial 911. As the dispatcher's voice came on the line, the reality of his failure crashed down on him with the force of a physical blow. He had been so lost in his hobby that he had forgotten his sister's life was in his hands. The piercing wail of an approaching ambulance siren filled the air. He made the second call, the one he was dreading more than anything. His father's voice answered, cheerful. Hey son, everything okay? Dad, Alex choked out, tears and panic making his voice unrecognizable. It's Lily, a wasp. She's not breathing. The cheerful tone on the other end of the line vanished, replaced by a sharp, terrified intake of breath. Then, his father's voice came back, no longer a parent, but a man taking command. We're on our way. It'll take us 3 hours. Your uncle, Rob, is closer. He's a 40-minute drive. He's coming. Now. Alex hung up the phone. Through his panicked haze, the final words echoed with the weight of impending doom. Uncle Rob, his father's brother, the retired Army sergeant, the man of iron discipline who tolerated no excuses. The real lesson, the real consequence, was on its way. The time between the phone call and his uncle's arrival was a blur of flashing lights and panicked voices. The paramedics worked on Lily with a grim efficiency, their questions to Alex about the EpiPen and the time of the sting feeling like accusations. He could only stand there, helpless, his hands still covered in the grease of the car that had stolen his attention and nearly his sister's life. By the time the ambulance pulled away, a black, immaculate truck had screeched to a halt at the curb. Uncle Rob stepped out. He was not a large man, but he moved with a coiled, disciplined energy that made him seem to take up more space than he did. His face, etched with the stern lines of a 20-year military career, was unreadable. He didn't shout. He didn't rush. He walked over to the lead paramedic, got a quick, quiet report, and then turned his steel gray eyes on Alex. Hospital. Now, get in my truck, was all he said. The drive was a tomb of silent judgment. Rob drove with a focused calm that was more terrifying than any rage. When they arrived, Lily had already been stabilized and admitted she was going to be okay. The wave of relief that washed over Alex was immediately followed by a fresh wave of dread as his uncle led him to a deserted waiting area. Sit, Rob commanded. He didn't sit himself. He stood over Alex, a towering figure of quiet authority. You had one job, Alex. One, a life or death responsibility. And you chose a piece of metal over your own sister. There is no excuse. There is no explanation. There is only the fact of your failure. Do you understand that? Yes, Uncle Rob, Alex whispered, his voice trembling. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, his uncle replied, his voice still level. Your parents will be here in 2 hours, but they are too emotional to deal with you right now. Your father asked me to handle the immediate consequence. We are going home. Back at the house, the silence was thick with shame. Uncle Rob led Alex not to the living room, but back to the scene of his failure, the garage. The half-assembled engine of the muscle car seemed to mock him. This, Rob said, gesturing to the car, is your passion, your pride. It is also the idol you chose to worship instead of protecting your family. An act of such catastrophic negligence requires a physical reminder of the cost of irresponsibility. He walked over to a wall where his brother kept his tools and took down a thick, heavy leather tool belt. He unbuckled it, the sound of the metal clicking echoing loudly. He folded the heavy leather in his hand. Your father is a gentleman, his uncle said, his voice low and gravelly. I am not. You will bend over the hood of this car you love so much, and you will accept the discipline you have so profoundly earned. Tears streamed down Alex's face, but he knew there was no arguing. He did as he was told, leaning over the cold metal of the car, the very thing that had caused all this. The first strike of the heavy belt across the seat of his jeans was a brutal, shocking impact that drove the air from his lungs. It was a pain unlike anything he had ever known, pure, unadulterated consequence. That, his uncle's voice boomed in the enclosed space, is for the headphones that made you deaf to your sister's screams. Crack. The second blow landed with punishing force. That is for the EpiPen you left on the counter. After 4 hard, stinging strikes, he stopped. Alex was sobbing, broken not just by the intense, fiery pain, but by the overwhelming weight of his guilt. Now, his uncle's voice cut through his sobs. The lesson continues. The physical punishment was over, but the true consequence had just begun. Uncle Rob laid out the new terms of Alex's life. First, this project is finished. You will not touch this car again until your father says so. Your keys are mine. He confiscated them. Second, your sister will need care when she comes home. You will be her nurse. You will cook her meals, administer her medication, and you will not leave her side. Third, and most importantly, you will use the money you have saved for this car to pay for every cent of her medical bills. You will liquidate your passion to pay for your negligence. The next day, Lily came home, weak but safe. Alex's apology, delivered at her bedside, was a tearful, broken confession. And then his service began. He quit his part-time job. His life became a cycle of taking his sister's temperature, helping her with her homework, and sitting by her side, watching movies she wanted to watch. A week later, his parents now home, he sat in the garage, but not to work on the car. He was on his laptop, listing his prized high-performance engine parts for sale online. His father walked in and stood beside him. The ambulance and the hospital stay came to just over $2,000. His father said quietly, I know, Dad. Alex replied, not looking up. I'll get it. I'll sell it all. There was a long silence. Then his father placed a hand on his shoulder. You made a terrible mistake, son, but you are facing the consequences like a man. That's a start. Alex looked at the half-finished engine of his dream car, and for the first time, he felt nothing. It was just a machine. He had learned, through a fiery sting and the slow, humbling act of service, that responsibility wasn't a chore you could tune out. It was a life and death commitment to the people you love.